The little girl wasn't looking at him. She was looking at his plate. David Carter noticed it the moment he lifted his fork. The restaurant was noisy, plates clinking, waiters rushing, people laughing over warm dinners, but the tiny figure near the door stood perfectly still. The girl couldn't have been older than 6. Thin shoulders, faded pink sweater, shoes a size too big. Her wide brown eyes were locked onto the half-eaten chicken and rice in front of him. And behind her, gently tugging her sleeve, was her mother. The woman tried to move quietly toward the exit, her head lowered as if she hoped no one would notice them. She looked about 32, though life had drawn deep lines of exhaustion across her face. Her coat was worn thin. One hand clutched a small, nearly empty purse. The other held her daughter's hand. David's fork froze midair. He knew that look. He had seen it before, on his own daughter's face. 3 years earlier, when his wife passed away after a long illness, David had found himself alone with 5-year-old Lily in a mountain of hospital debt. There were nights he pretended he wasn't hungry so Lily could have the last bowl of soup. Nights he distracted her with stories so she wouldn't notice there was no dessert, no milk, sometimes no breakfast planned for the next morning. He knew what hunger looked like when it tried to be polite. The woman reached the door. The little girl turned one last time. Their eyes met. David stood up. "Excuse me," he called gently. The woman stiffened, embarrassment flashing across her face as though she expected accusation instead of kindness. "We weren't bothering anyone," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry. We were just leaving." "You weren't bothering anyone," David replied softly. "But your daughter looks like she might want some dinner." The girl lowered her eyes immediately. The mother swallowed. "We're fine, thank you." David recognized pride, too. Pride can survive even when money doesn't. "My name's David," he said, stepping closer but keeping his tone respectful. "And I've been where you are. Please, let me help." No strings attached. The woman hesitated. Her daughter looked up at her with quiet hope that broke something inside him. Finally, she nodded. They sat down at his table. The little girl, Maya, barely touched the menu before David ordered a full meal for her. When the food arrived, she tried to eat slowly, politely, but hunger won. She finished everything. Then she apologized. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" David asked. "For being so hungry." His chest tightened. The mother introduced herself as Elena. She explained, haltingly, that she had lost her job at a small clothing factory 2 months earlier when it shut down. Rent had consumed her savings. She'd been applying everywhere, cleaning jobs, cashier positions, anything, but nothing had worked out yet. That night, she had only wanted to warm Maya up inside the restaurant before walking back to the shelter where they were staying. "I didn't want her to stand outside in the cold," Elena admitted. "I thought if we sat for a minute, no one would notice." David noticed, and he couldn't ignore it. After dinner, he did more than pay for the meal. He asked questions, not intrusive ones, but careful, practical ones. What skills did she have? Did she have childcare support? Transportation? References? Elena had experience in sewing and alterations. She'd worked in garment production for nearly 10 years. She was skilled, careful, reliable. David's mind started turning. He owned a small custom printing and embroidery shop across town. It wasn't a giant company, just a modest operation he had built from scratch after years of struggle. He specialized in school uniforms, small business merchandise, and personalized gifts. Lately, he'd been overwhelmed with orders. "I might have something," he said slowly. "It's not charity, it's work." Elena's eyes filled instantly. "I don't want pity." "It's not pity," he assured her. "It's opportunity, and I could use the help." The next morning, Elena showed up at his shop 15 minutes early. She worked like someone who had everything to prove. Careful stitches, perfect alignments, no complaints, no wasted time. But the challenges didn't disappear overnight. Maya had no stable daycare. The shelter required them to leave during daytime hours. Elena sometimes brought her to the shop, where Lily, now 8, would sit with her in the corner doing homework. The girls became friends quickly, bonding over crayons and shared peanut butter sandwiches. Still, whispers came. A neighboring business owner muttered about bringing shelter problems into the area. A customer once complained about seeing a child in the workspace. David had to decide whether kindness was worth potential business loss. It was. He rearranged a small storage room into a clean, safe corner with a desk and toys. He made it official policy. employees with children in emergency situations could bring them temporarily. Productivity didn't drop. In fact, morale improved. Within weeks, Alina's work began attracting attention. Her stitching was finer than anyone else's. Customers started requesting her specifically. One large school contract nearly doubled their monthly revenue. For the first time in months, Elena smiled without fear behind it. But the biggest challenge came quietly. One evening, David found her crying in the workshop after closing. "What happened?" he asked. "The shelter gave us 2 weeks," she said, voice shaking. "They're full. We have to leave." Progress had been real, but not fast enough. David thought of Lily sleeping safely at home. He thought of Maya's eyes staring at his plate. He made a decision that would change all their lives. His late wife had inherited a small 2-bedroom house across town, unused since her passing. He had been unable to sell it because of memories tied to it. It sat empty. "It's not charity," he told Elena firmly the next day. "You'll pay rent, a fair one, when you can. Until then, consider it deferred." Elena cried harder than she had at the shelter. Moving day was simple but sacred. Lily helped Maya unpack. David fixed a broken window latch. Elena stood in the middle of the living room as if afraid to touch anything permanent. "It's yours to rebuild," David said quietly. Months passed. Elena stabilized. The house slowly filled with thrift store furniture and laughter. Maya gained healthy weight. She stopped staring at other people's plates. David's business flourished more than ever. What began as one act of kindness transformed into something bigger. He partnered with a local nonprofit to offer job training for single parents. His shop became known not just for quality work, but for second chances. And one evening, almost a year after that first restaurant encounter, the 4 of them sat around a dinner table in the once empty house. The table was full. Maya asked for seconds. Elena laughed freely. Lily told a dramatic story about school. David looked at his plate, and then at Maya. She wasn't staring at his food anymore. She was smiling. Sometimes people think miracles are loud, dramatic, obvious, but sometimes they begin quietly, when someone notices a hungry child pretending not to be hungry. David had once feared he wouldn't survive losing his wife. He had once believed he had nothing left to give. He was wrong. Because compassion multiplies. A meal became a job became a home became a future. And all because one single dad refused to ignore a little girl staring at his plate.